That's a pretty tall order. Loving all alike. I was reflecting on this topic today, and the illustration of the mountaineer is such a great one. Imagine climbing Mount Rainier here, like Hriman tried to do without a guide. I mean, he didn't mean to do it without a guide. He actually had arranged for a guide, and then the guide was sick at the very last second and just taught him one or two things and sent him on his way. And it was a harrowing experience. And they didn't make it to the top because of the melting that was happening. But in any case, what I'm trying to say, imagine climbing Mount Everest without a guide. It's known that to do difficult things like that, we need someone who's done it before and who has done it successfully. And really that's what the guru represents. One who is God realized, one who has achieved full enlightenment, full self-realization, and having done so, comes back to help us along the way, to magnetically, Swami Kriyananda used to like to use the illustration of the magnet as the guru, and here's an unmagnetized bar of steel, which is us, with billions of samskars, of karmas from the past, you know, bouncing around in every direction. And then here's the magnetized bar of steel of the guru, the magnet. And by just simply aligning ourselves with that, it aligns all of those energies to go upward to God. If we want to know God truly, taking the guidance of one who has experienced it is invaluable to magnetize us. The word guru, the root of that word in Sanskrit is gur, G-U-R, and it means to raise or to uplift. And so the role of the guru is, as that magnet, to raise our energy and to uplift it and align it with God. We really only need a guru if we truly want to know God. And Swami Kriyananda, Ananda's founder and Yogananda's direct disciple, used to say that you don't have to go looking for your guru. All you have to do is want to know God, and God will send you the guru. The first step is to love God and to want to know God, and that's the main thing. The guru is also one in Autobiography of a Yogi. Yogananda defines the guru as one who can achieve breathlessness at will. That's also a tall order, breathlessness at will. So it's not, you know, taking a deep breath and jumping into the pool and holding it for a few minutes. It's achieving that state of complete breathlessness at will for as long as one wishes to be in that state. And that is a feat because, I mean, it is relevant because in that state of breathlessness, the heart is still, the breath is still, the mind is still. We are experiencing complete oneness. We have exited duality, as it were. And so achieving that or wanting that, because that is what God is, and God is within each and every one of us. But he's mixed up in that concoction of a billion karmas that we've created, and so we're not able to experience the divine that is within us, that calmness, that stillness, because our egos are keeping us bound in that duality. The ego, Yogananda defines as the soul's, identified with the body, not just the body, the personality, the bundle of self-definitions, as Swami Kriyananda used to call them. And so the ego tries to keep us in that outward material plane. And because we're in it, and in fact, because we're on this plane, we're all in it, in that ego to some varying degrees. To that extent, it's virtually impossible to transcend that ego. You can't get out of the ego when you're in that ego with the ego. It requires some perspective, some objective realignment in order to transcend that ego. When Swami Kriyananda first read Autobiography of a Yogi in 1948, he was 22 years old. And he took the next bus that he could to the West Coast, to California, to try to meet Yogananda and ask to be his disciple. And one of the first questions Yogananda asked him was, "What did you think about Autobiography of a Yogi?" And Swami Kriyananda, of course, said he was absolutely in love with it. And Yogananda said, "Well, that's because it has my vibration in it." And when I first heard that, I thought, well, if a normal person said that, it would sound a little bit like ego, because my vibration is in it. But he said this to Kriyananda, and as I reflected on it more, I realized that Swami Kriyananda, at the age of 22, describes himself as being incredibly intellectually oriented and full of pride about his intellect, and a wordsmith. Like the reading this morning about the crossword puzzles, he loved words. And we would take vacations with them, and he would be doing crossword puzzles like crazy. And what Yogananda was saying to him, it wasn't the words in Autobiography of a Yogi that you loved. It was the feeling. It was the vibration. He was taking him out of his head and into his heart. And for me, I know the first time I read Autobiography of a Yogi, I was going to Cal Berkeley, and I'm a slow reader, so it took me a little while longer, but I too fell in love with the feeling. I resonated with absolutely everything in that book that was teaching. Some of it I didn't understand, but I still felt the resonance. I had that feeling, I called it. I didn't use the word vibration, although it was popular in rock songs of my day, but it was a feeling. And so I followed up on that feeling, and I heard about a direct disciple named Kriyananda who was trying to build a temple in the Sierra foothills. And if you went, you could do work exchange and stay on retreat. And I was 19 years old. And I just made my way up there from Berkeley to the Sierra foothills. And the first time I met Kriyananda, I was struck by the fact that I felt that same feeling that I had felt in Autobiography of a Yogi. He emanated that same vibration for me. And so the rest was history. It became clear that I needed to pursue, because he had something. If I had to put words to it, there was a peace, there was a joy, there was a deep calmness, there was a wisdom, and I wanted it. I didn't know how to go about getting it, but I knew I wanted to be around it and learn how to get it. And so that vibration, meditation, well, going back a second, prayer is talking to God. Meditation is listening for the divine response, because we become still, and the voice of God is silence. And discipleship to the Guru, one of the definitions is the act of listening, of being open and receiving in that openness and in that listening. So discipleship is listening, meditation is listening. They go hand in hand. And the more we're able to meditate and still the heart and still the mind, the more we come in alignment, in attunement with the Guru, whose ultimate purpose is to introduce us to God, is to give us, to help us toward the experience of God. There's a line in one of Yogananda's chants, "To thy vast unthrobbing heart." And I love that line because it speaks to that stillness, it speaks to that breathless state, it speaks to that heart that is pure, to thy vast unthrobbing heart. Ultimately, the guru-disciple relationship is one of attunement and camaraderie in your love for God. I used to say that to Swami Kriyananda all the time, who didn't hold himself out as the guru. He pointed everyone to Yogananda. But I felt that we had, we were walking along that path to God together, and he's guiding and supporting us along the way. I remember it's happened a number of times, but this one occasion, Hriman and I had been giving Sunday services for maybe just a couple of years, and Swami Kriyananda came to a service at Ananda Village where there were a couple of hundred people at least in the room, and he was in the front row. And he almost never came like that because he was almost always out lecturing or writing books and such. And so here we were, and back then both ministers used to speak, briefly. So here we were walking in, and we see Kriyananda in the front row. What could I possibly say that he doesn't already know? And, just feeling that sense of inadequacy. And so we got up and gave the service and gave our talks. And it was an interesting experience because I only felt his love. I only felt his support. I only felt uplifted. He wasn't judging me as I feared I was judging myself, He wasn't criticizing in any way. He was reflecting back to me the highest that is in me, and he was uplifting me. And so that is what the Guru does for us. And he was doing that because that's what his Guru taught him to do as a true friend to people. Just mirroring, just holding out the highest. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Babaji, Yogananda's guru's guru, said to Sri Yukteswar, Yogananda's guru, he was talking about the yogi being one who, when you mix sugar and sand, the yogi knows how to sift out the sugar and leave the sand. And when I first read that, the way I internalized it was that the yogi discerns, the yogi knows those things that bring you closer to God and those things that take you away from God. But I realized in all my years of working closely with Swami Kriyananda and being his friend, and he, as I said, learned all this from Yogananda, I realized that the yogi is always looking at the highest in everyone and in every situation. And so with Kriyananda, what would happen is I'd organize a lecture for him, and there would be a hall full of people, but there'd be a sprinkling of empty seats, but there'd be a few people standing at the back. And then afterwards he'd say, and the hall was filled to the brim, and it was standing room only. You know, he would just describe it in these glorious ways, and my mind would go, well, not completely. There was a sprinkling of empty seats. You know, I would just sort of, my mind would enter into it. And I learned over time that he would just state everything in a positive way. And what that meant is he looked at each one of us in the most positive possible way. He was not looking at the sand, he was looking at the sugar all the time. And that was his practice. He didn't know any other way to be than to see the highest. And ultimately, that's what the Guru does. The Guru knows what our faults are, what our flaws are. The Guru reflects to us who we truly are, which is a child of the infinite, a spark of the infinite. It doesn't mean the sand doesn't exist. It just means he's focusing on the sugar. And the more we focus on the sugar, if you'll pardon me, sorry about that analogy, I'm trying not to eat sugar, but the more we focus on all that is good in one another, in ourselves, in one another, in every situation, the more we come into attunement and alignment with that unthrobbing heart at the center of all creation, which resides in the center of each and every one of us. I want to conclude in my favorite analogy to the Guru, which is the wave. Body surfing is by far my very favorite thing to do. Less and less I'm able, but I'm doing it anyway. The water sort of holds me up when I do it. And here's the thing, the Guru is like the wave. And when you're body surfing, you know you have to catch the right wave. Waves come in sets. And some of them don't have much power, and they can't bring you all the way to the shore. So you want to catch that wave that will bring you all the way to the shore. That's what the guru represents. And when you're out there in the water, what that means is you may let a lot of different waves go by because you don't feel their power. And the way you feel it is with the currents that you feel pulling around your legs. And you can also see it to some degree with your eyes. Otherwise, you get these wimpy little waves and they take you a few feet or 10 feet, but they don't take you all the way to the shore. And so the trick is to catch the wave, not just the right wave, but to catch also the wave in the right place, in the right attunement to that wave, in the right placement. Because when you are in that right place, it's so exhilarating because the power of the wave supports you and brings you all the way to the shore. And if you don't catch it in just the right place, if you're on top of it, you may crash. If you're too under it, it'll overtake you. You have to catch it in just that right spot, and then that wave has the power to bring you all the way to the shore. So it is attunement, and it is patiently loving God first and foremost, and sensing, tuning in when the guru, when a true guru, one who can have the power to not just inspire, but uplift our consciousness by attuning us with the divine that is residing within us. Joy to you.